Well, as we did on Friday, let's check in with the Chief of West Kelowna's Fire Service, Jason Brolin. And Chief Brolin, I saw some good news from you earlier today. You said things seem to be moving forward. Is that still your feeling tonight?
Over the last 36 hours, we've certainly had a reprieve in the weather, which has resulted in a reprieve in the fire conditions. It's cooler. We don't have the extreme wind that we were seeing, and therefore we're not seeing that extreme fire behavior. For the first time in this incident, my men and women are actually able to go out and use the traditional firefighting techniques that we're used to on this fire. Digging guard, tying in, hosing down hotspots, mopping up. The difference is, though, it's on a massive scale.
On a massive scale, on a, like a continuous firefight over the last few days. Describe for us what you've been seeing in terms of the challenge for your firefighters. Well,
none of us put this shirt on. None of us start our career as firefighters setting out to lose. Some of my people described it as like striking out in the 9th inning. And, that's how personally we all take the losses that we experienced. And it's going to be a difficult few days, not because of firefighting necessarily, but because of processing the emotion and the realization that people are going to come to. There's no question, there's a significant number of houses that have been lost, but there's also so many that have been saved, and people are going to be shocked when they go home and see their backyards blackened, but their homes still standing.
And so let's talk about some of those or one of those 9th inning wins. I think you described earlier some situations where firefighters managed to stop the fire, really close to some people's decks, very near their homes.
Yeah, there are business owners, there are residential property owners who are going to go home to their neighborhood. They're going to see that their neighbors lost their house, and they're going to see that the fire came right down to their back patio. They're going to see their patio furniture has been moved by firefighters, pushed out into the yard in order to stop ignition potential. And it's going to be a lot for people to take in.
Well, there'll be some cause for, celebration, I guess, in some cases. But as you pointed out, definitely some tough days ahead for your firefighters, but also for your community, West Kelowna. Chief, thank you very much for speaking with us again tonight.
You're welcome.
Let's connect with the Mayor of Kelowna, Tom Dias. And Mayor, first of all, how are you doing this evening?
We're doing better this evening. I mean, the conditions over the last 24 hours have helped our communities and our surrounding communities. Last night we were down to about 10 degrees and the winds have been very calm throughout the day. So it's allowed the first responders, the firefighters to put a position where it ends up being they're able to look at being on the offense as opposed to where they were being on the defense the last, the 24 or 48 hours prior to that.
Yeah, and a similar story, as you know, in West Kelowna. So that's nice to hear. Now, you were out of town when the fire hit that area. So describe for us what it was like as you arrived back home.
There was a feeling of relief to be back home, to be here. A little bit of apprehension because of what I left behind, but there was definitely a feeling of relief. I had to fly into Vancouver because Kelowna airport at that point in time was closed, and then I drove through the night. So when I arrived back in this area, it was early morning. The sun was just coming up, but it was a very bright orange through the smoky cloud. It was a little bit of an eerie feeling. The roads were, there was very few people, very few individuals on the roads. The smoke was not very high in the sky, so it held a very low presence over the city. It kind of had the feeling, a little bit of a feeling of a Stephen King novel and, the landscape from something like that. So it was a very eerie feeling, but it was also an appreciated feeling because then I knew that the message was received by the residents to stay off the roads so that the emergency service vehicles were able to do what they needed to do to help fight the fires.
We know the city of West Kelowna has been hit hard. Some homes have been burned. We don't have the count yet. What about your city, Kelowna?
There's also been structures that we have lost in the city of Kelowna. I believe, there's structures in Lake Country which have potentially been lost, but obviously the city of West Kelowna was hit the hardest. And I know that as soon as they are comfortable with regards to the fighting and the control that they have on the fires, that the next order of business that they're going to look at doing is delivering the messages of the structural counts and what home has been affected, because it's created anxiety for those individuals within our community who are concerned about their residents, who are concerned whether they have a home to go back to.
Well, I know I speak for a lot of people across the country when I say we're happy to hear that cooler weather, less windy conditions have meant maybe things are looking a little bit better. Mayor, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Ian, thank you very much for your time this evening.